your seats if you can. Thank you so much. We're going to begin our Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture meeting. Thank you so much. So, welcome to the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture meeting scheduled for today, Monday, October the 2nd, 2023, here at the Banneker-Douglass Museum. Our call to order is as follows. Chair Edwin T. Johnson.
Present.
Vice Chair Maya Davis.
Excused.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Khalid Aset Ahmed.
Excused.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Lori Bradford. Commissioner H. Russell Frisby.
Present.
Commissioner Walter Gill. Commissioner Janice Curtis Greene.
Present.
Commissioner Kara Hunt. Commissioner Philip J. Merrill.
Present. I'm sorry. Commissioner, excused.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Commissioner Jalen Mooney.
Excused.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Brian Morrison.
Present.
Commissioner Barbara Pinkham.
Excused.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Robert Patterson.
Excused.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ada Pinkston.
Excused.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Hakeem Tijani. Commissioner Reggie Turner. Commissioner Elinor Thompson. Commissioner Kennedy Wilson.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Wellesley Wood. To the commissioners, our chair, vice chair, and the public, the notice for today's meeting was scheduled and placed on the Banneker-Douglass Museum website, the commission website, our local and national syndicates, and we thank all of you for joining us today. And at this time, I turn our public meeting over to the wonderful and capable hands of our leader, Chair Edwin T. Johnson. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. Good morning.
Good morning.
I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our August meeting. The minutes have been properly moved and seconded. Thank you. So welcome to the public meeting for October of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture. I'm going to yield my welcome time and turn it over to Commissioner Elinor Thompson, and I'll just provide a caveat for my fellow commissioners. When you host a meeting, this is how you host a meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner Elinor Thompson will welcome you.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for traveling all across the state of Maryland. I know many counties are represented here, but before we start our meeting, I'd just like to give you a couple little house rules here. Because this commission meeting, it's a public meeting, we need to record our notes. So therefore, we need kind of silence, no cell phones ringing. So if you could so kindly silence or mute your cell phones so we can properly document this meeting and save it for historical purposes. So while you do that, I want to recognize all of our elected officials or distinguished guests or representatives. If you could do that by raising your hand or standing up, I surely would appreciate it. Do we have any elected officials? Anyone representing Gary Simmons?
Hi, I'm Jacqueline, also representing Gary Simmons from his office.
Thank you. Any heritage area directors or managers? Are you here? Thank you, Dr. Carol Benson. Maryland Historical Trust, anybody from Maryland Historical Trust here?
I'm Dr. Knight, Chief Archaeologist at the Historical Trust.
Thank you. Maryland Heritage Area. Any historical preservation societies, organizations? Historic Satellite? Historic Satellite, thank you. Any community organizations? Yes, Ralph Bush Community Center here?
Yes.
Could you stand? Raise your hand, thank you. Any historic preservation cemetery societies?
Yes. Next representative,
Lower Shore Cemetery Preservation Organization, Lower Shore, Maryland.
And we have Historic St. Mary's County.
Historic St. Mary's City, Dr. Parno, acting executive director.
and St. Mary's County.
Thank you. Any descendant working groups? Any descendant working groups?
Malone Church, Madison, Maryland.
While saying that, I hope I didn't forget anybody, the public, to welcome any genealogy societies. Any genealogy societies here? Thank you.
And the Roman Society.
Thank you. Yes,
Friends of Fairview, Brother Murray, Friends of Fairview.
thank you. While saying that, I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. Please give Commissioner Thompson a round of applause for inviting and encouraging and persuading you all to be here. We're really excited. Now we'll have our formal welcome from our outstanding executive director, the one, the only, Chanel Johnson.
Well, welcome everyone to the Banneker-Douglass Museum, your state museum on African American history and culture. I haven't had a chance to visit all of the displays, but what I've seen thus far is really inspiring. I hope many of you applied to the African American Heritage Preservation Grant. If you didn't this cycle, there's always next cycle. So thank you so much for being here.
And there are seats up in the balcony. You can go to the back and to the right, and there are more seats upstairs. Good morning again. Come on, you all. Good morning. This is an exciting day. The fall is starting. The weather is great. Before I get started with my report, I want to take a moment and recognize we have one of our chair, make sure I don't butcher this, help me, Commissioner Frisby, Emeriti? Okay. Chair Emeritus Lindra Marshall is in the back. Please give her a round of applause. It's so important that we understand as a commission that each year, when we embark upon the great work that we do, that we're not starting from scratch. And there's so many that have come before us and paved the way for a lot of the initiatives that we are currently working to see through to fruition. So we stand on your shoulders. We appreciate your presence. We appreciate your support. Whenever you come through, we will celebrate you. Thank you so much for coming. One more round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. So I want to begin my report in her absence, congratulating Commissioner Hunt, who the stork visited since our last meeting. So our commission family has increased by one. She welcomed a baby boy into her family. I want to publicly thank Executive Director Compton and the museum staff. Where's the museum staff? Wherever you are, just raise your hand, wave, so we can see you. You all did an excellent job in terms of giving us a very polished look for the March on Washington in Annapolis commemoration on the 26th of August. For those of you who don't know, there was a commemoration of the March on Washington here in Annapolis, and we actually marched from the Navy Marine Memorial Stadium all the way to the docks, and there were shirts and there were signs, and we really had a very polished look. So I want to thank the museum staff publicly for that. Also, on this past Saturday, we actually had the second in the series of artist talks to close out this exhibition, and it was really an outstanding and excellent program. So we really appreciate all that the staff does. Sometimes when I attend the programming done by the staff, you think that there are 20 or 30 people working with all of the bells and whistles and everything that's happening, and it's just a handful of people, but they really do a magnificent job. Can we give them a quick round of applause? Thank you for that. So since the public meeting in August, myself and Executive Director Compton have had the opportunity to meet with Governor Moore, and then we've also met with his Chief of Staff, and we are now on schedule to meet every other week, which will get us on the road to many of the things that we hope to accomplish during this administration. On the 29th, I had the opportunity to represent as the Master of Ceremonies for the Governor's International Underground Railroad Month Proclamation Ceremony downtown. So we were excited about that. Many of you know that my primary goal, I'm not going to say my primary goal, but my legacy, if you will, is to actually add the name of Harriet Tubman to the end of the current museum title. So it will be the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum. So 300 years from now, I'm old and come back to visit Annapolis, and I look up at the sign and that name is there. I say, I did that. But in all seriousness, that is something that we're striving for. So we will keep you posted about the progress of that. But I thought that the meeting with the governor and the governor's staff was very positive. The paperwork has been completed and submitted, and we are well on our way to that, completing that endeavor. We also had a meeting about the commission website, and commissioners, you will be hearing from probably Mr. Herbert about updating your bios, submitting pictures. We're really looking to upgrade our look and give us a more polished public appearance that will line us up for the things that are on the horizon. So the month of October is a very, very busy month. So look at your neighbor and say, heavy lift. Look at someone else and say, heavy lift. So commissioners, you should have received by email some proposed changes to our bylaws. It is very important that you review those, because on October 12th, say October the 12th, we're going to have a special meeting to approve these updated bylaws. There's a lot of language in the bylaws that carries over from when we were under the governance of GOSI. So we're updating a lot of the language. There were a number of commissioners that brought some things to my attention, Commissioner Hunt, Commissioner Frisby, where the bylaws were outdated and were no longer in line with some of the missions of the committees. So commissioners, please, 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 I beg of you, I implore you to do your due diligence and make sure that we get our bylaws in order so that we can have this important special meeting and vote to approve them on October 12th. So October 12th and 13th, and this is important because there was some confusion about this. October 12th and 13th is our annual symposium. And there was some confusion because initially the date was the 26th and the 27th. It is now the 12th and 13th. Everybody got that? 12th and 13th. And that will be at Morgan State University, October 12th and 13th. One of the things we do annually is to have a symposium. It focuses typically on the annual theme for Asala, and we also endeavor to improve upon capacity building for a lot of folks that are in the audience that do the type of work that we want to do. So please keep an eye out for October 12th and 13th. Also in the month of October, say heavy lift again. Some of y'all are asleep, so I'm trying to help you. Heavy lift. October the 25th, we kick off the Year of Civil Rights. The Year of Civil Rights. There's a whole lot that is going to be going on in 2024. We just celebrated the 60th anniversary of the March on Washington, the 60th anniversary of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. So there are a lot of anniversaries that are upcoming, and we're going to be heavily involved with those, and we want you to join us. When you look at the climate of everything that's going on in our country, from the banning of books and the questioning of African American studies as a legitimate academic discipline, it is so very important that we take intentional measures. Somebody say intentional measures. Intentional measures to remind ourselves of the battles won in the past so that we don't find ourselves in a cycle where we're doing repeats. So we want to keep these victories fresh and in the forefront of our minds so that we don't take steps backwards. Finally, there was a restructuring of the Reginald Lewis Museum, and we found out that we now just have one seat on that board, which is held by Commissioner Frisby. And Commissioner Frisby plans to hold that seat until the end of his term, which will be the end of June 2024. And Commissioner Morrison has expressed his interest in filling that seat after Commissioner Frisby departs from it. So the two of you, if you can be hand in hand and you can begin to groom him so that we can have a smooth transition on that important board. And finally, I want to remind commissioners that during our retreat, some of you remember I gave you a challenge. You can take your seat, Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner Tijani. I gave you a challenge, and that was for everyone to at least host one group to this site. And it's so important as commissioners that we remember this is one of our crown jewels. In my opinion, the African American Heritage Preservation Program and the Banneker-Douglass Museum are the two most important works, efforts, missions of the commission. So it's so important, and that's why we're so appreciative of you, Commissioner Thompson, and the work you do bringing folks here. This is one of the state of Maryland's best kept secrets, but we want to change that. We want people to be aware, and we want folks to visit. Thank you. Executive Director Johnson.
Thank you, sir. Another round of applause for the best chairman in the planet. Welcome, everyone. So I will be giving a report. You can see on this upper screen. Apologies for that bar on the side, but you can see. Oh, Mr. Smoot. All right, technology. Okay. So I'll be giving a report on activities for September and October for the Banneker-Douglass Museum, our growth operationally, some of our priorities, and some things that you can get involved in FY 2024. So first and foremost, I do want to introduce a new staffer with the Maryland Commission on African American Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture, Ms. Taylor Means. Ms. Means, can you come on up here? No, we went from $1 million, a capital grant program, and we advocated for years, and finally we got the increase to $5 million, and with that we're like, oh gosh, we need a new staff. We need more staff to administer this program, and so out of the Banneker-Douglass Museum budget, we have a full-time research grant specialist, Ms. Taylor Means. She is a public historian and community activist, and I'm just going to pass the mic over, so to speak, just to share a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. As she said, I am a historic preservationist and public historian from Tennessee, new here to Maryland. And I'm very excited to be here and get engaged with all of you, meet all of you, and hopefully work with many of you.
So it's important to note that Taylor was definitely recruited, and our goal is to provide the best outreach services, the best technical support to not only our applicants and awardees, but to all African American heritage sites throughout the great state of Maryland. We want to assist when it comes to capacity building. We want to assist when it comes to organizational growth and sustainability. So thank you, Taylor. So some FY 2024 priorities, what we're really focused on as a commission and as a museum, we're focused on improving our operations. Now I know that's a super broad term, right? But really we're trying to improve the organizational culture here of the museum. We want this place to be the best place to work in the state of Maryland, right? We want to improve our systems of operations, be it capital repairs, internal business operations, staffing, and so forth, including not only, you know that whole term, you gotta get your house right before you invite people over. We're constantly thinking about that, right? So we are right internally. That means our visitors, our community outreach, our resources to the community are better. So we're really focused on visitor engagement. So some priorities include hiring 4 new full-time employees. So far, our goal was to hire 6. With the increased budget, we're able to hire 6 full-time employees to improve our educational outreach, to onboard and actually have a curatorial staff, to improve our marketing and communication services, as well as our technical assistance to African American heritage sites throughout the great state of Maryland. Also completing our strategic plan in FY 2024, we're looking to begin that process in December. Capital repairs and upgrades. It's a beautiful facility, but it's 11,000 square feet. And there are so much that we can do to upgrade our permanent exhibition, make this more technologically sound for our visitors, and also some capital repairs to our historic wing, be it in the facade and throughout the facility. BDM name change, what Chair Johnson had mentioned. We are going to add Tubman to this name. Everybody know who Tubman is, right? Okay. The Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Museum coming to the state of Maryland quite soon. We're also going to begin plans to upgrade, as I mentioned, our permanent exhibit, which hasn't been upgraded in like 15 years, so we're a little overdue. So we're really excited about that. And really what we're thinking about is, especially, you know, that old African saying, think 6 generations ahead. What are museum visitors, what are heritage tourists gonna look like, gonna be interested in the next 25 to 50 years? Just think about that. So that's something that we're definitely forward thinking about. Marketing and communication. So we just published, Banneker-Douglass Museum published an exhibition catalog, The Radical Voice of Blackness Speaks of Resistance and Joy, on sale. You can find that at the front desk of the museum. I do want to give a special thanks to Jan Lee, our marketing and communications coordinator. Now, we do not have a curatorial staff, and technically exhibit catalogs are the work of a curator, but Jan, she rolled up her sleeves, child, And she worked with our graphic designer and myself to publish an incredible exhibit catalog featuring the artwork that you see here today, really preserving the legacy and the voices of African American Maryland artists. In addition, Jan and her department is in the process of hiring a full-time marketing coordinator to improve and expand our visibility in the state of Maryland and beyond, of course. Media coverage, we've had notable media coverage in Annapolis and throughout the state in the DMV area. Most notably, this exhibition. This exhibition has had tremendous reach. The Radical Voice of Blackness Speaks of Resistance and Joy, as well as our interpretive programs. Next, we have engaged through our online. We are highly active on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And our website has gotten a lot of traction, as well as our on-site visitation. We have engaged a little over 19,000 people. So that's really important. Heritage sites, listen up, okay? You definitely want to track your on-site visitation, but you definitely want to, I know you have a new website up, you want to track your website traction, you want to track your Facebook views, your Instagram. All of that is important when it comes to grant writing, when it comes to building your case for support. Because now that we live in a digital age, many people might not be able to come to your site. You know, we have COVID, people who are differently disabled or differently challenged, or don't live in Maryland, right? So you want to track that. Next, we have a youth and programs department. Our director of programs isn't here today. Her name is Ms. Sabria Hassan, and she is fantastic. Currently, her department has presented 5 youth and public programs. She is in process of interviewing candidates for the education coordinator position. I will say this, and I know I'm kind of, follow me, right? When it comes to our youth and public programs, so many institutions, mainstream institutions, are invested in DEI, community engagement, community activism, right? But really, Black museums, the heritage sites that you have preserved, we have been doing that work for generations, right? Black museums were formed not to tout someone's endowment, not to illuminate the elite, right? They were formed to empower children, communities. They were there for the greater communities. And that is the framework that we use here at the Banneker-Douglass Museum. So our goal in hiring this marketing coordinator is to expand our after-school programs, our youth services beyond our walls. To have after-school programs throughout the great state of Maryland, to teach young children about Black history, art, and culture, because how can you feel disempowered about yourself when you know you stand on the shoulders of greats? The next thing that the department is working on is preparing for Maryland's Year of Civil Rights. So, what year is the 60th anniversary of the Civil Rights Act? 2024, that's right. So next year, the governor and the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture will be announcing Maryland's Year of Civil Rights, because Maryland was the epicenter of civil rights activism. So we will be doing interpretive programs and partnerships throughout the state and programming to educate the masses on that history. Art in the city. So I mentioned some of our after-school programs. We have an after-school program at Robinwood Community in partnership with the public housing in Annapolis. We've expanded that program to Annapolis High School. As culmination to that after-school program, we took 7 of our program participants, middle schoolers and rising high schoolers, to Brooklyn, New York, where they visited the Jay-Z exhibition at the Brooklyn Library. They painted a mural on a building where Malcolm X once owned, which states in Arabic, welcome. They partnered with the mural with Brooklyn local youth, and it was just a fantastic experience. I was tired when I got back. Because those middle schools, woo, but they had a great time. And so you can see that video on our YouTube page. And that program was completely sponsored through grant programming and corporate sponsorship. Next, Chair Johnson had mentioned the March on Washington. At the museum, we painted a mural with the community celebrating Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech. And important to note, the commission and the Caucus of African American Leaders in Arundel County, and a special shout out to Jan Lee, because she worked hard on that committee as well. We planned that whole march, and it was a lot of work. But it was a great turnout. Special shout out to Morgan State University Band and students for coming out and raising their voices, centering Black causes and social justice matters such as police brutality and the importance of Black history in public schools. Next, speaking of leading the babies to righteousness, we hosted Constitution Day with Annapolis teens, where they had a panel discussion focused on African American civil rights history, and it was a very powerful day. Our after-school program was invited to the Wiz reception, which will be in Baltimore this year at the Governor's House on September 25th. It was a very intimate event with the Wiz, the whole Wiz cast. I met Deborah Cox. Well, I didn't meet her, I saw her sing. I was too shy. But the Wiz cast, the family of the Governor Moore was there, and of course the Banneker-Douglass Museum after-school program. They had the best time. It was so good. You could see our kids meeting Governor Moore. Okay, I gotta tell a quick story, I'm sorry. So as the kids were coming in, right, I'm preparing them. I'm like, how do you shake hands? Like, look the person in the eye, especially our young men, like, firm shake. Even our young girls, for sure, like, look them in the eye. So when the governor went over to speak with the kids, I'm like in the corner doing something, and I come back and they said, Miss Chanel, the governor dapped us up. Do you know how to dap? And I was like, oh, so they taught me how to dap. It was great. They had a really great time. But no, seriously, but seeing that representation of our young kids is so important, right? To see someone that kind of speaks their language, and they even asked, wow, do they live here? I'm like, yes, and one day you might too, It was incredible. Closing reception to the radical voice of Blackness speaks of resistance and joy was really powerful. That would be seen on our YouTube page as well if you happen to miss it. Upcoming programs. Chair Johnson mentioned this, the 6th annual Quarles Conference at Morgan State University. Please excuse the date, it's actually the 12th and the 13th. The Maryland Year of Civil Rights launch event with Governor Moore. We are announcing the Maryland Year of Civil Rights for 2024 and really encouraging schools and communities to visit African American heritage sites such as yourselves, be involved in African American civil rights programming and events at the museum, and to keep this history alive and preserved, and to encourage the next generation of change agents. Our upcoming exhibition includes A Story to Tell, which is an art and literacy exhibit featuring the art of Ernest Shaw. You can see one of the pieces there in the slide. I will be curating that exhibition, which I'm really excited about because this is the first one I'm curated at the museum. And the next larger exhibition will be Revisit, Reimagine, which is going to feature the Afro newspapers archives of photos and archival materials documenting the civil rights movement in Maryland. So that's going to be very powerful. Collections. We are almost there in purchasing the Harriet Tubman statue that you see outside of the museum. The statue was done by MacArthur Genius Fellow, Baltimore native, Dr. Joyce J. Scott. Our goal is to purchase a statue in alignment with our name change, adding Tubman to the museum name. The curator of collections and exhibition, that job posting just ended on the 28th, so we will begin the process of interviewing those candidates. Facilities, this is just some facility work that we're doing at the museum, including upgrading our security cameras. We are installing Wi-Fi here at the museum, which has been a long-winded project, but we're almost there. We cleaned out, did some capital repairs to our offices for the new onboarded staff and some lighting repairs at the museum. I want to thank the commissioners for all the work that you're doing in the great state of Maryland. Thank you for supporting and volunteering for our programs. We have a small but mighty staff here at the museum, but you help make our work happen. And I also want to thank our community partners such as yourselves. Many of you I know, some of you I don't, but hopefully we can talk later. Supporters like you really make our work possible. You know, our state budget really keeps the building open and helps with the staffing here at the museum, but most of our programming and our exhibitions, our after-school programs, our interpretive programs, which are free to the public because we want to make Black history as accessible as possible, those are grant funded and paid via donation. So if you want to support the museum, please make a donation to our fiscal sponsor, the Banneker-Douglass Museum Foundation, which you can find on our website. I want to thank all of you, and I'm going to pass the mic, so to speak, because it's still the 50th anniversary of hip hop, to Jared Johnson.
Give her a round of applause. And I hope between the two reports that you heard that we are marching towards full independence. Everybody say, marching towards full independence.
Marching towards full independence.
All right. Next we will have the finance report.
Good morning, everyone. For fiscal year 24, our appropriations from the state was $1.6 million. As of 8/31, we were at $1.4 million. Once we are fully staffed, we will see our expenditures go up in regards to what those expenses will be with the full-time positions that we are currently interviewing for. In regards to the capital budget for fiscal year 23, we were appropriated $75,000 through the Department of General Services. We have $55,000 of that remaining. And for fiscal year 24, through the capital grant program, we were appropriated $3 million. And in regards to the foundation financials, we're working with our accountant to get an update on those for us by our next meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner. Now we'll have the report on the African American Heritage Preservation Program. Commissioner Frisby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, for those of you who don't know, the African American Heritage Preservation Grant Program, the purpose of it is to help preserve a number of African American heritage historic sites throughout Maryland. When I first came to the commission, and since then I was surprised how many of those sites there are in Maryland, and how many of those sites are in disrepair or could run programs if the site was brought up to code and to speed. So that's what we do. This year is a historic year for African American heritage preservation in Maryland. In the past, our annual grant was only $1 million, and we could give that in $100,000 implements. Thanks to the legislature, the grant has been increased to $5 million, and we can give those, maximum grant can be $250,000. That's the good news. The bad news is that last year we had approximately 40 applications, and the amount asked was approximately $5 million. And obviously we could not do that. This year we have in excess of 100 applications, and the amount asked is $20 million. So again, it has gotten worse. But the other good news is that we have a committee of 10 commissioners, obviously chaired by myself. Also, I'd like to recognize Commissioner Philip Merrill as the vice chair of the committee. And we are working in conjunction with the American Historic Trust to move forward with the whole process. MHT does the initial review to ensure completeness. The actual recommendations, decisions are made by the commission. We have obviously changed the way we review the applications this year, given the number. Each commissioner is given a number of sites to do an initial review. We hopefully always will be able to read all 100 applications, but obviously may not be able to do all in depth that we like, which is why each commissioner has been given the obligation to review 10 in depth. We will be meeting November 8th and 9th to review and make our final recommendations to the commission. Then the next meeting the commission will consider. One point, it keeps coming up every year. This is a heritage preservation grant. There are a lot of buildings out there that are in desperate need of repair, but they have nothing to do with heritage preservation. Or if you want to run a great community development program out of an institution. But that's not what we can fund. We can only fund historic heritage sites. And I ask everyone to please remember that, because every year we have a number of applicants who are very upset, disgruntled, because they didn't get the application. However, no matter what the need, their application had nothing to do with African American heritage preservation. And I just ask, again, this is an annual plea, people please remember the purpose of our grant. Mr. Chair, that completes my report.
Thank you so much, Chair Frisby. Vice Chair Merrill. Next, we will have the Ancestral Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation Committee of Commissioners Greene and Thompson.
Please let it be known that the original name of the committee was the Human Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation. Human remains is so clinical, because what we're talking about are real people. They had names, they lived, they died, they worked, they loved. Those people are people of African descent. Those people are our ancestors. And that's why the committee voted to change the name to the Ancestral Remains in the Cemetery. On that committee we have Commissioners Philip Merrill and Ada Pinkston, who is not here today. So before we begin the report, we do what we always do with people of color when we're talking about honoring our ancestors. We pour libation. Ni me kamboluwa, ni me kamboluwa, ni me kamboluwa, nada buya ke ezu. And in case you don't understand Swahili, that means I am delivered, I am delivered, I am delivered by the hand of God. I have you. For those who don't understand about libation, I got about 3 minutes left. It's a Ghanaian. Yes. Did you bring one?
Yes, I did.
Come on up, Philip. The committee has brought pictures of their ancestors. Because these ancestors have not been identified. This committee is working with the Maryland Historical Trust. We're working with the Cemetery Preservation to identify ancestral remains that have been found in 4 separate cemeteries across 4 separate counties. We have represented from Twin Oaks in Wicomico County soil from their historical cemetery. And we will pour libation without calling the names. The reason why we have our ancestors here are because we are adopting those ancestral remains until they can be identified, until they can be returned to their descendants, until they can be returned to a sacred burial place. They are our family. They are your family. So we have the St. Bird, which I always include when I pour libation. It's a Ghanaian, a Dinka symbol, and it says, go back and fetch it. It means until we can understand where we have come from, we will never have clear direction on where we're going.
Yeah.
The bird has an air in its mouth representing all the generations. It is moving forward, which we are doing, but it's looking back, craning to remember the past. So we always start libation by pouring. We pour water into a plant or the soil, and I'm not going to mess up these beautiful new floors. But in the soil, if I was standing in a cemetery, I would pour it right back into the soil. And because water is quenching and life-giving, we use water. In Ghana, they use schnapps, okay? But they won't let us pour liquor in here. So we pour it and we call out the names of our ancestors. So I'm going to pour first. We always offer it to a deity, and since we're all of different faith communities, that deity, we won't give a name. We could call him Yah, we couldn't call him Yahweh, we could call him Jehovah, Allah, God, but we know the one thing that all deities represent, and that is love. So in the name of love, I pour. You answer Ashe when I pour, and that is Yoruba for let it be so. In other words, we're all here in agreement. Are we all in agreement? Ashe? Ashe. Ashe. So in the name of our deities, we say Ashe and we pour. And you say Ashe. To the elements, that includes the north, south, east, west, the summer, spring, winter, fall, earth, wind, and fire, air, we say Ashe, and water. To the ancestors who remained in Mother Africa, who never made that voyage, but we feel a connection with them, we say Ashe. To those that made that middle passage, those who survived, and those who did not, either by death inflicted upon them, or that they chose to dive into shark-infested waters rather than be put in shackles. And to this date, and to this day, sharks still travel that path, looking for bodies to be thrown in. Their smorgasbord. And to those we say Ashe. Ashe. And to those who did make it and fought and died and lived and fought enslavement, fought Reconstruction, the forgotten period, fought Jim Crow, civil rights, so that we could stand here now. We call out their names, it's going to take a long time, so we'll just say to all of them, especially Frederick Douglass, Benjamin Banneker, and none other than Harriet Tubman, and the founders of this commission, Berta Freeman Welcome and Dr. Benjamin Qualls, we say Ashe. Ashe. And most importantly, to all the ancestral remains that have not been identified, for those names we hold a moment of silence and remember them. And they will be identified, and this committee will work to make that happen. We say Ashe. Ashe. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Asheo. And I thank you.
Thank you to the Ancestral Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation Committee for that powerful, powerful, powerful report. Next, we will hear from Commissioner Kennedi Wilson on the statewide book drive.
Good morning, everyone. Ooh, I got chills.
Good morning.
I, as well as Commissioner Jalen Loney, who was not here today, are on the committee for the book drive. As of today, we have reached out to all 23 counties in Baltimore City public libraries to serve as a donation site. Some have not responded yet. 9 of those county libraries have agreed to participate and have begun setup. 3 of them have declined to participate: PG County, Allegheny, and Caroline. And so because of that, we'll be redirecting our efforts to other organizations in that county, in those respective counties, for various reasons. It's very interesting. So far, about 10 libraries have not responded. So in the meantime, we have been following up via phone, contacting other organizations, and building those relationships to move forward if they decide to also decline to participate. We have received a couple questions that we want to bring to the commission for clarification. One of them being, how are we going to collect the donations at the end of the book drive? I have decided, because I was told out I was given full reign, Chair Johnson, I have decided to make the book deadline February 29th of next year, if that's okay. Okay. And so everyone that we talked to has been okay with that so far. So we need to figure out how we're going to arrange pickup. And I have no problem going to each county, so I guess that's a commission decision. We have a meeting set up with Pratt, Baltimore City, on Wednesday, the 4th. And Allegheny NAACP, because Allegheny Public Library declined, they have stepped in, and we have a meeting coming up with them as well. So far, we've distributed flyers and press releases, and we've created a designated email, MCAAHC bookdrive@gmail.com, and that's what we've been using for correspondence. And yeah, so we just have to figure out how we're going to set up collection, that process, and move from there. Everything's going smoothly so far.
Thank you so much. Too easy. We can figure those things out. And Commissioner Tijani, really quickly, we have mentioned the symposium, but as chair, I didn't want to rob you of your thunder for October 12th and 13th.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Actually, this year's conference will be taking place October 26th through 27th.
Oh, no, 12.
Hey, this is 12 and 13.
No, it's 26th.
Okay.
I got it.
It's changed back to
Yes. That is why we would like me to clarify.
Please clarify. Clarify for all of us.
26th and the 27th taking place at our dear Morgan State University. And the theme is about lynching. And the guest speaker will be Dr. Charles Travis. We have so many presentations by high school students, poetry. My students will be talking about something similar to what the commissioner presented, based on a book titled The African Diaspora, Historical Analysis, Poetic Verses, and Pedagogy. We have several panels on the 27th, and we hope to see you there to be part of it. It is free. It's at Morgan State University. Wait, Morgan? Or College, James Gilliam College of Liberal Arts. You can visit. I'll be on the main road with you. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. So everyone had that. It is the 26th and 27th and not the 12th and 13th. Finally, we will have board representation reports by Executive Director Johnson, who sits on the Maryland 250 Commission, as well as the Crownsville Hospital Board.
All right, so this is super quick. The Maryland 250, we all know Maryland is going to be 250 years old as one of the founding colonies. I erase that word, founding colony, because people were already here. Child, ain't find nothing. But they found people. The state of Maryland has an official state commission, Maryland 250. They have an executive director. They have not onboarded enough commissioners to have a meeting, so that will be coming up. I do think we're a little behind compared to other states like Virginia, but our goal is to amplify the Black experience in the development of Maryland. So we'll be doing a lot of work around that. So we're excited. Next thing is the Anne Arundel County is now the stewards of Crownsville Hospital, which was formerly the Negro Hospital of the Insane. It was a working camp. It was a place of genocide, and our role on that preservation commission is to make sure that those Black voices, those Black ancestors, their memory and the descendant community are heard, are preserved, are shared with the public, and that it is an African American heritage site in Anne Arundel County. So we're working on that. I do want to say that Lori Bradford will be a great addition to that board, being that she represents Anne Arundel County, and she's a new commissioner, and I look forward to working with her.
Thank you. And thank you all for all of the work that you're doing in your respective committees, and please keep us updated as you move towards successful outcomes. So we're now at the portion of our program where we will receive guest presentations, and first we have Mr. Lou Fields, the African American Tourism Council of Maryland. Please give Mr. Fields a round of applause as he comes forward.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So you will.
Anyone know what today is? Would you believe it? It's the day that Thurgood Marshall was sworn in as our first United States Solicitor General, October 7th. It's good news, right? Well, I have a presentation today. Before I get started, we'll have about 10 minutes. Anyone? 5. 5? Okay. 5 minutes, okay. Woo. Well now. Okay. Well, I wanted to let everyone know that today is a special day. I'm sort of underdressed, but properly dressed for this occasion, but underdressed because I just left a tribute to Brooks Robinson, Mr. Oriole, who he passed last year. Thank you. He gave us a lot of great memories, 2 World Series championships, and the Orioles had a wonderful program for him today, and I, of course, had to go there. So this morning, I was here a little bit about me in a minute, and then I'll take the rest of the time to talk about my presentation today. I'm Louis Fields. In 1996, myself and the late Stephen Pace, we founded the Baltimore African American Tourism Council. So a lot of the talk I'm doing today will be on tourism. And in doing that, we found that there were gaps as related to the state, the city, and counties. Now this is 96, 97. We found that there were some information that we could share with our state and city tourism and county tourism offices that would enhance and stimulate increased travel to Maryland, to Baltimore, and our counties, particularly for those interested in the authentic history of the role and impact of African Americans in Maryland. What I've done over the last, I guess, 30 years, this is my 30th year, we did certain projects. These projects added to the fabric, if you will, of our state tourism industry. So what I've done over the last 30 years is so many different projects. Harriet Tubman Day program for 20 years, established that as March 10th, officially in the state of Maryland. I'm waiting. No, I said we established March 10th in year 2000 as official state of Maryland Harriet Tubman Day remembrance for our state. That led to us having a $21 million museum for Harriet Tubman Eastern Shore of Maryland. In 2017, establishing Harriet Tubman Day in Washington, D.C. So over these 3 decades of working in this industry, we, people of color particularly, who have museums, like this one. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner, Mr. Chair, and all the commissioners. This is the right place to have this meeting. We see that prior to COVID, our African American institutions, particularly those who are positioned to be in the tourism industry, prior to the year 2000, they were very much unfunded and underfunded. Many of our museums, for example, the Arena Place in Baltimore, Maryland, is the oldest black theater in the country. It is unfunded today. So you have mostly people working as volunteers. And we really survive on admissions, your donations, and sometimes we write some grants, and we get lucky to get grants. But most of our African American institutions statewide are unfunded. Maybe less than 5. We have about 24 black museums in the state. Maybe 3 are funded. Maybe 3. Banneker in Baltimore County, BDM here, and Reggie Lewis in Baltimore. Most of our black museums are unfunded, run by volunteers. So when you look at the tourism industry, it's a $20 billion industry for the state of Maryland. When we look at how much funding through your tax dollars go into the state, to go out to the counties in the city of Baltimore for tourism marketing, a subsidy if you will, it's about $42 million a year. That was before COVID. Now when COVID hit, we could not rely on admissions anymore. We had to rely on cutting back on staff, restricted hours. So from 2020 to today probably, the black institutions of our state have suffered. They were suffering before COVID, and during COVID, of course, and post-COVID, they're still coming out looking at a state that's funding tourism to the tune of $42 million per year. However, African American minority tourism organizations are not included in that funding. So what we did, we just released this new report. It's called the 2023 Maryland Minority Tourism Report. The report is 28 pages. It costs $9 each to print. So in my 5 minutes, all I can do is give you the website where you can view this document on your own. And what we're asking that you do after you review the document, if you have any comments, there's an email that you can email to me. But more importantly, read the document, whether you're pro or con or favor the statements in the document, please send your comments to your state senators and your state delegates. Because we are now under a new governor and a new director of Commerce. So we're asking for your support that $42 million of funding, that's really your tax dollars, should be more inclusive, if you will, and open it up so African American institutions, museums, cultural attractions can be a part of this annually designated funding that comes from taxpayers' dollars. And some of the things you'll see in my report that I talk about, staffing, grants, marketing, outreach, as it relates particularly to the one department that oversees tourism. Now why is tourism important to preservation? Show of hands, who's working on a preservation project? Okay, more than half of the people. Once your project is complete, you then want visitors. You want attendees. And that's when you tie in preservation efforts with tourism marketing promotions. And so in this report, I'm trying to make the case that we as Marylanders should work together to make Maryland #1 in African American tourism, or multicultural tourism, or minority tourism, however you want to phrase the term. We have the product here. We have the intentionality here with people like yourselves working on the projects. What we have to do now is encourage our governor. Read the report, which I'm dropping off a copy to him after I leave here today. Read the report, because the report is based on the state statistics. Every state agency has to release an annual report as it relates to MBD, procurement, and where you're spending your dollars. This report shows unfavorably how we are being treated as minorities as it relates to tourism dollars. We are not receiving 1% of the $42 million. So I'm not here to make a sad note. I'm here to say, once we look at what's wrong, we can work together to make Maryland #1 in multicultural tourism. And the only way you do that, you have to take a self-analysis at yourself, look at yourself, see where you are, particularly coming out of COVID. Many of our black museums are struggling today. Some are not even open anymore. We have lost, I know, at least 3. So I'm going to close there because I don't want to go over my 5 minutes. But I'm here to say thank you all for coming. And again, it's through the work that you do. You save our culture, you save our history, and you save our tradition in most importantly, you respect the work of those people whose efforts you are preserving. So I appreciate all of you, and I got some handouts, and I'll make sure I stay around and get it out before I leave. You have a question?
Thank you, Director. Thank you. Thank you very much for that presentation, Mr. Fields. Really appreciate it. Question for you: do you have a concrete recommendation for us as the commission and for the citizens and folks out here who work in preservation? A concrete recommendation. Just give us one that you think is like a top priority that we as a commission should be working towards, whether it be with the legislature, the executive branch, or within our respective areas. What is one recommendation you can give for us, as well as the rest of the folks who are here today?
Thank you for the question, sir, and it's a very appropriate question. On page 14 of the report, I have part 5, which is recommendations. There's 12 steps that I think the state could look at to reform our state tourism. Number 1, establish the State of Maryland Division of African American Tourism. That would be the first thing I would advise, because if you don't have focus and intentionality, and you have a staff of people coming to work every day to do general tourism, they don't have enough money, they don't have enough staff. So when you talk about a specific interest group, you have to have a division with staff that looks at that on a daily basis, their day job. And so that's what I would recommend that we would all support, asking the governor and the first African American to be Secretary of Commerce to look at creating a division within the State Office of Tourism that would be promptly and appropriately staffed and funded. And those persons on a daily, Monday through Friday basis would come to work on behalf of making sure Maryland again is number 1.
Thank you.
Could you get the website, please?
Yes, the website, are you ready?
Yes.
It's B as in Baltimore, D as in David, X as in X-ray, the word live, L-I-V-E. So you should have bdxlive.biz. And when you open the website up, the minority report is right there. You can read it right online. Or print it out, either one.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. And you know, this will be continued. Mr. Fields is a longtime friend and partner of both the commission and the museum, and he knows his stuff. And we are definitely going to review that report and take appropriate action. So our next speaker is a guest of the Ancestral Remains Cemetery Research and Preservation Committee, Dr. Travis Parno, Acting Executive Director, Director of Research and Collections, St. Mary's City, St. Mary's, Maryland. Please give him a round of applause.
Good morning, or afternoon at this point. Thank you all so much for being here. I do have some slides to share if those can get queued, I don't know, but if not, it's no problem. So I'm joining you this morning or afternoon from southern St. Mary's County in St. Mary's City, Maryland, from the site of historic St. Mary's City. Historic St. Mary's City is a state agency. We are a living history museum located at the site of Maryland's first colonial capital. And for those who have never taken the hour-and-a-half or so journey down south, we manage over 800 acres of land. We have 2.5 miles of shoreline, over 100 buildings. We're an outdoor living history museum, and we've been doing archaeology at our site for over 50 years. And in that 50 years of time, we've identified more than 300 archaeological sites, and we curate more than 6.5 million artifacts on our site. And one of the sites that we've identified, and it's relevant to the story that I want to tell today, was the 1660s chapel built by the Jesuits who were living on the site of St. Mary's City, beginning around 1665-66 when they started this work. Now, the chapel foundations were identified in the late 1980s, and there was a desire to reconstruct this building to be a public monument to Maryland's role in the story of religious freedom here in the United States. And so, in advance of constructing that building, the remains were identified because this site had been a burying ground for the colonial capital for over 100 years. So more than 300 individuals were found buried in the ground around the chapel site. And in order to protect the remains that were scheduled to be impacted by the reconstruction of this chapel, 62 individuals were exhumed and were studied by Historic St. Mary's City in collaboration with the Smithsonian Institute Museum of Natural History and their forensic anthropology team. That work began a really productive partnership between Historic St. Mary's City and the Smithsonian beginning back in 1990. And led all the way up till today, where genetic evidence is being extracted from those burials. Some really cutting-edge work looking at where these individuals came from originally before they even arrived in St. Mary's City. I leave that up to today because right now what I'm here to talk about is another project located at the site called Chancellor's Point. It's about a 60-acre property down the southern end of our land at St. Mary's City. Today it's used as a recreational site. There are campsites, there's water access. We have a sailing group that teaches classes outside of this site. However, one of the things that was identified at this site back in the 1970s was that there was archaeology present located on an embankment right adjacent to the St. Mary's River. So as erosion is happening on this site, we're seeing artifacts actually eroding out of that site. And so an archaeological site was identified back in 1973 showing that people had been living at this site in the 1600s. Thank you very much. This is a picture from a view of the St. Mary's River from the southern side of this site. And I'm just going to skip through some of these slides. I already told you what we are and where we are down at the southern end of Maryland. Oh, just lost it again. Okay. That's perfect. So there was the chapel site that I mentioned before. You can see the reconstructed chapel down on the bottom of that slide. And that work, just to highlight, culminated in an exhibit at the Smithsonian that talked about what we can learn from human remains, what we can learn about the lives of the people, and not just talk about them as archaeological subjects, but really try and share the lives of individuals and everything that we can learn there. And the article on the right shows some of that genetic work that was done much more recently. So the site of Chancellor's Point, as you can see here, is really just sort of a flat open area that drops off to the river. On the image on the right-hand side, you can see the river dropping off on the right with the trees along that riverbank. Those are important to our story. We don't know a lot about the site historically. We know that it got its name because the site was owned by Philip Calvert, who was Chancellor of Maryland at some point in the late 17th century. We know that the land passed through various owners in the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries, but other than the early 1630s and 40s, it doesn't seem like anybody lived on the site. The archaeology does not suggest that there were homes or dwellings anytime after, say, 1650. But we do know that it was owned and likely farmed throughout the 17th, 18th, and 19th centuries. Now to walk through very briefly the timeline here, in some archaeological work done at the site based on seeing some of those 17th century artifacts eroding out of the embankment. Archaeology was conducted in the 1970s and early 1980s, and 2 burials were identified on this site. This is very unusual for historic St. Mary's City. Most of the burials we have ever encountered outside of this site have been found outside of that brick chapel I mentioned before. One of those burials had clearly been damaged at some point historically. A tree had grown in that area and had fallen sometime 100 or 200 years ago, and it actually damaged the skull of one of those burials. But we did what we always do at Historic St. Mary's City. If we encounter a burial and it's not going to be disturbed by construction or other sorts of intervention, we cover it up and monitor it in place. However, in the process of that early work being conducted, part of a jaw fragment that was misidentified as an animal bone was actually recovered because it had been separated from the burial. It was in a different spot, and so it was recovered, and in 2007 determined both to be human and to actually have one tooth in that jaw that was modified. It showed that the tooth had actually been scraped down using a stone to form a sharp point, a practice that was distinct to some West African cultures, but was not practiced in the Caribbean or the Chesapeake. So that suggested that one of these 2 burials was of an individual of African descent. Now we continue to monitor this site to ensure that it was in safekeeping. As recently as 2018, we mapped the embankment and showed the burials were intact. There was no worries from erosion. You can maybe see from that satellite image that there was riprap that was installed in the 90s. to ensure that that embankment wouldn't erode further. However, at some point during the period where our museum was shut down in 2020 or 2021 because of COVID, a large tree fell during a storm that actually took a large chunk of the embankment with it and threatened one of those two barrels. This gave us a lot of cause for concern for obvious reasons. So we reached out to local leaders in our community, Kelsey Bush, who's here today, Janice Walltower, Mike Brown, and started soliciting their thoughts on what we should do here. We said, really, we've got kind of three options we could look at. We could leave these remains in place and just let nature take its course and not disturb them. We could excavate them carefully and quietly and rebury them somewhere, either on this site or in a local church or wherever the community group deemed most appropriate. Or we could excavate them and work with the Smithsonian as we have in the past to try and learn as much as we absolutely can and tell the stories of these people as widely as possible. And our community group was really in favor of that third option. So in April of this year, we began excavations at the site. Just after that time period in May, we formed a working group called the Chancellor's Point Working Group, who are acting as our guides for this project and really directing where the work goes from here. And I just want to highlight, we have in that group members of the Unified Committee for Afro-American Contributions, St. Mary's College of Maryland, our own historic St. Mary's City Commission, St. Mary's County Museum Division, and the St. Mary's County NAACP. And I want to thank Kelsey Bush, Karen Stone, and Hess Stenson, three members of our working group, for being here today. Now, as far as our research to date, the excavations were conducted, as I mentioned, the two burials were identified, the Smithsonian team came down and performed analysis in the field that they have tentatively identified these two individuals who were probably buried between 1680 and 1730. They're believed to be of African descent and likely formerly enslaved based on that time period. And you can see there's a QR code in the upper right-hand corner that has an article that was published in the Washington Post about the beginnings of this project. Apologies for all the text, but just to show you a little bit about those two burials, it was really a study in contrast. One was a female in her early 20s. She was had a very slight build. She was not in great condition as far as her remains, and she was buried in a what we call semi-flexed position. Her leg was partially bent, but she was facing the river, which was really important. The second individual was a male, somewhere in his, buried in when he was in his 30s. He was much more robust. He was in very good condition as far as his bones were concerned, and he was buried perpendicular to the river on his back, but with his head also facing the water. Now, as far as what else we have done on this project this summer, the remains were transported back to our labs where they were meticulously cleaned, and we were able to conduct some very preliminary analysis looking at nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon isotopes to look at diet. We were actually able to determine what these individuals ate during their lives. We were able to show that the female individual enjoyed a largely plant-based diet, where the male individual enjoyed much more animal proteins. And we are looking for sometime later this year or early next year for the Smithsonian to return to the labs to conduct a little bit more in-depth analysis for us. Now, when we look to the future of this project, there are two large factors that are looking for us. And the first of those that I think a lot of projects are looking to these days is looking at what we can learn from genetics. And I have up here just a couple of images from a recent work that was done by the Smithsonian team in collaboration with the Reich Genetics Lab up at Harvard at the Catoctin Furnace site up outside of Frederick, for those who are familiar, where a largely African and African-American cemetery was impacted by construction, and the remains were excavated, and some of them have been tested genetically, successful genetic extraction from these human remains, and we're actually able to work with the Reich Genetics Lab, the Smithsonian, and then the company 23andMe, which you may be familiar with, to connect genetic material from the buried individuals to modern populations, and that's what that graph is showing on the right-hand side. They're actually able to prove a certain degree of genetic connection between about 5,000 individuals in the United States with these buried individuals. Now, we're not at the level yet where we're connecting an individual today. You can say this person is directly connected to these buried remains genetically, but it's getting to that point. This is the cutting edge of genetic work on historic populations, and the QR code up there links to a science article that was published in early August talking about this work. The second part of this, the future here, you can see the images on the bottom left, looking at potential facial reconstructions from the remains. The two that are shown there are from the Catoctin Furnace site. The remains of the male individual at Historic St. Mary's City, Burial 601, are in a good enough shape that we believe that we could do a micro CT scan of the skull and actually print a 3D model, turn it over to an artist who can reconstruct what that individual looked like in life. To really connect people from past to present, add the humanity back to these individuals in a very visual way. So that is an option that the working group is considering right now. And then finally, other things that we're looking at doing, we are trying to assess the rest of the archaeological site. There was a lot of work done on that embankment back in the 70s and 80s, but there are some areas that have not been excavated yet. We don't believe that this is a burying ground of 10s or even 20 individuals, but there might be another burial too that are present, and we want to make sure that those burials are preserved and that they don't suffer the same fate that one of the two did here at Chancellor's Point. So we're looking at cutting down some trees from the site to make sure no more trees fall down and doing some archaeological investigation. We're also the working group is really dedicated to education. So we're looking at curriculum development opportunities for K through 12, undergraduate students, connecting with a lot of the local institutions in our area, St. Mary's College, our neighbors, looking at ways of telling these stories as broadly as possible. In that same vein, we're looking at a possible documentary through Maryland Public Television, Wide Angle Youth, other sorts of groups like this, filmmaking groups in the area. And then finally, of course, thinking about reburial and commemoration. Here I show an image from the commemorative to the enslaved peoples of Southern Maryland at St. Mary's College. Really pivotal piece of public art down there that connects a lot of our organizations together. And I want to really celebrate what other organizations in St. Mary's County are doing, Historic Sauterley, St. Mary's County of Maryland, St. Mary's County Museum Division. There's a lot of organizations pulling in the same direction, and we're just happy to be a part of that. So thank you very much.
I do have a question. Who's funding the project? Who are the funders? Yep.
So our funding at Historic St. Mary's City is through the state, our state agency, and so we've devoted staff time, and the Smithsonian team is working with us grants.
Our final presentation is by Mr. Edward Dean, Lower Shore Cemetery Preservation Organization Incorporated, Silent Cemetery, Dorchester County.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I would like to thank Commissioner Thompson for this invitation to speak briefly. It's an honor and a privilege to stand before you. We are here for one reason. We love our shared history. My name is Eddie Greene, Chairman, Executive Director of Lower Shore Cemetery Preservation Organization, a 501c3. We preserve historic cemeteries. I was born and raised on the eastern shore of Maryland with deep Dorchester County roots, but I've now resided in Wycomico County for 58 years. It wasn't until I heard of the cemetery of my own ancestors disappearing into the Chesapeake Bay that I publicly promised to make a difference. 4 years later, with over 24 projects from private to public cemeteries, we've made an impact and strong statement in a short period of time. Our mission, although complex, can be summed up into 3 words: awareness, education, and action. In such a short period, the awareness that we've created has put us on the front page of numerous newspapers, local magazine articles, including being a guest on Delmarva Life. My co-chairman, Robert Moskow, professional cemetery conservator, has been instrumental in helping this organization. His skills enable us to have a wide variety of on-site educational programs, which provides a hands-on learning experience. During these programs, we give classroom-style PowerPoint presentations explaining the significance of cemetery preservation. and the steps that can be taken, in addition to a full restoration. We couldn't have done it without the help of hundreds of volunteers of all ages. Our events are educational, productive, and entertaining. We attract folks from all over. To date, our projects and events have been privately funded, but we've recently submitted 2 grant applications and are very hopeful of their outcome. Turning down no one, our focus is historic African American cemeteries. Our newest project will be starting in November of this year at Silent City Cemetery. The setting is a wooded section just outside of Cambridge, next to a public school. This will be a 2-year project that will transform a forgotten 2-acre African American cemetery, making this accessible to all. Plan on creating a circular driveway, a 300-foot long handicap accessible elevated boardwalk, benches, birdhouses throughout the area, all leading to a large viewing area. The size of this project is enormous, as many of the vault tops have collapsed. Most of the graves are unmarked, only depressions in the ground. We plan to locate each one with GPS, in addition to marking each with a stainless steel religious cross. With financial support from a national solar company, many volunteers and donors will be involved in this project, including Dorchester County Board of Education Technology Department, Salisbury University, a local surveying firm, Culpeper Lumber, and many others. Regarding the MHT Transfer of Human Remains project, I was asked to visit the Twin Oaks site in Wycomico County. I only live a few miles from that site. I provided some photos of the area, in addition to bringing a jar of soil. I did plan a 5-minute presentation, and I spoke a little quicker than I expected, so I'm going to speak from the heart. I'm not a speaker, I'm a good old Eastern Shore boy. And I did vow publicly to make a difference, and in 4 years we've made an incredible difference. Mr. Luther, one of the older, thank you very much. This is one of our greatest projects we ever had at the New Revived United Methodist Church on Smithfield Road. Pastor Keith Beckett was the pastor at the time, and he has become one of my best friends. I've participated in their services, and I can truly say I've never been more moved in my life in a place of worship. I left there inspired, elevated, just goosebumps all over. This project, Silent City Cemetery, is instrumental. It's a huge stepping stone for us. The solar company reached out to us and has hired my nonprofit to restore the cemetery. It's a huge, huge project. I'm grateful that they found us. And I'm grateful for you folks to be here today, and for me to be here, and you all to listen to me. This is, the last slide is the site, Twin Oaks, that I visited on the edge of darkness, I believe it was Thursday evening. And I sent Commissioner Thompson video. I'm grateful to you, Commissioner Thompson. I am. And I'm grateful to you all. And I appreciate you listening to me today. I thank you for your time. And I'd like for you to stop by our table downstairs and look at our display that was put together in the last 3 weeks, and to learn more about my organization. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Commissioner Thompson, you want to come forward?
Thank you. Thank you very much. To all the speakers and everybody out here that came to support our commission and our commission works, you know, it is unbelievable how hard we work as a commission to complete this work that will, not right now, we don't realize how important our work is. It's not until the next 100 years people will realize about how great and how much work we did to preserve our history and heritage. The most important part and the most critical things that our commission should know about the work of this committee. This committee is dedicated to identifying African American remains currently in the custody of archaeology and conservation laboratories and other sites across Maryland. Now, as urban renewal comes and we start to build things all over the state of Maryland and beyond, we're going to come upon some remains. So we need to identify these remains. They need to be housed somewhere and protected by, we need generational protection of these remains. This committee strives to identify, document, and preserve the cemeteries across Maryland where African Americans are interred and hold the ceremonies honoring those whose lives and legacies and memories have been ignored or forgotten. In partnership with Maryland Historical Trust, I'd just like to let you know, we want to make sure that if there's any known descendants of these collections that are being housed at these institutions, we want to first ask permission through the public, unknown descendants and descendants where these remains are being held, so we can properly give them a proper burial and recognize them for who they were. Right now, they're just sitting up on a shelf as a number. We want to be able to rebury these people, give them a name if we want to, so they can ascend to heaven. They're just sitting right on the shelf. So, in partnership with Maryland Historical Trust, we're ready to do a press release with engaging the descendant African American communities. The next phases of our work will be collaboratively working with the different communities, the genealogy societies, the descendant communities to identify these bones. So hopefully we'll get into the process where we have enough evidence where we can collect the DNA from the descendant communities to connect them with these collections that are being housed at these multiple institutions. So we can also get funding. That's what we're seeking funding for, and that's where Jacqueline Alsop is here to hopefully, with Delegate Gary Simmons, can help make this happen so we can get some funding to bury the remains of these people that's held at the various institutions. So right now, what I'm asking for is your blessings and your permission to continue on with this project, even though you may not know that there are descendants in this building right now that we know from oral histories. But however, we're asking for your blessings to move along with this project so we can continue on preserving our own history and heritage.
Ladies and gentlemen, Commissioner Elinor Thompson. She is definitely the MVP for the day. So I think we're on schedule. Where is Mr. Herbert? I think we're on schedule. So if we could, just kind of start in that back corner and give us a 40-second introduction. We'd just like to know who's with us today.
Dempsey Bennett, Mount Auburn Cemetery, Baltimore.
Karen Stowe, Museum Division Manager, Harris County, Maryland. We have the African American Schoolhouse and the Old Jail Museum, which is a site on the Underground Railroad, plus 2 other museums. Bob Harris, Watson John, Wesley Methodist Church Cemetery, Forest Drive. Zeno Brown, Adams United Baptist Church Cemetery, Lothian, Maryland.
Can I just say something? Stephen, were you a recipient of one of the awards? I mean, one of the grants?
Yes, we were.
Thank you.
Also, Marisa E. Step, I'm from Adams United Baptist Church.
Emily Ross, Program Officer for Grants at Maryland Communities.
Good afternoon, Anita Spriggs with the Rock Creek Bunch Community Center in Edgewater.
Marcus Jones from Route Bunch Community Center in Edgewater.
Gregory Daniels, Mount Calvary Community Engagement Corporation in Parno, Maryland. I'm the cemetery director there. We have tons of veterans in our cemetery that we're trying to preserve their history as well as the founders of our church. It's the owner of Thompson, MVP for the day, Herbert.
I'm Matt McKnight, I'm an archaeologist at the Maryland Historical Trust and working with Commissioner Thompson, Commissioner Greene on the Ancestral remains base.
Oh, Sarah Ford, Charlotte, the boys and the church. We have a historical museum at the church with civil rights coming out of our church. That's a state, part of the state of Maryland. Definitely from Charlotte, the boys and the church, and also the Mount Auburn Cemetery. And Elinor Thompson is also one of our guys. Nancy Hill, South New York, Methodist Church. She's hanging out with us.
Tina Simmons, I research cemeteries in Anne Arundel County, which began local genealogical society. I'm also on the board of the Coalition to Protect Maryland Heritage Sites.
Ginger DeLuca from St. Anne's Cemetery here in Annapolis.
Jackie also representing Delegate Gary Simmons.
Pamela Spearman, coordinator for Wayland Depot Family Churches, Running Park Restoration of the Hall, and also coordinator for a documentary that we are producing on the history of the Jones community in Serrano Park. And Elinor Thompson is one of our supporters. Thank you.
William Rao, Senior Advisor to the Mayor of the City of Annapolis. My home church is right next to the Methodist Church.
Far corner.
Good afternoon, I'm Heather Hurst, Director of Commercial Development for Visiting Appleton and Arundel County.
You tell Butler, Bill said that the family got better.
Again, I'm Taylor Means, Maryland Commissioner of American History and Culture, Research and Preservation Specialist.
I'm Herbert, I'm representing the descendants of the White Marsh Historical Society.
I'm here to see Robert from Springhill, Mississippi, Springhill Baptist Church.
I have been properly introduced, thank you.
Hi, my name is Faith Bell. I'm a former president of Columbia Beach, established an African American Historical Organization since 1940.
Elena Lowell, I'm the executive director of the Museum.
Dan Robinson and Dan Brew from Bass Neck, Frederickstown on the Eastern Shore, Canal, Illinois.
Good afternoon. I was just saying, the Lillian Valley Moses Cemetery Incorporated,
Elinor as well.
And I'm Charlotte Greene. And I'm Gail Greene. And we're from Choose More United Methodist Church. And we are applicants for the 2023 African American Heritage Grant. And Commissioner Elinor Thompson is assigned to us. We're in the process.
Pastor Louis Reed of St. James Free Methodist Church in Quantico, Maryland, Kennedi Creek. We are, our cemetery is being preserved. Elinor Thompson Commission is working with us.
Barrington Ross, Robinson AME Church in Graysonville, Maryland. Elinor Thompson is our advocate, and we're glad to be here today.
My name is Pastor Master William Brooklyn Chris Hall Mason. Our Masonic Hall is in Rock Hall, Maryland, and we reside in one of Rosenwald school buildings. And Commissioner Elinor Thompson is helping us preserve our Masonic Hall and the Rosenwald School.
John Parno, member of St. Philip's Episcopal Church here in Annapolis, also a resident of Centerville, Maryland, in Queen Anne County. Just interested in the program. I heard about it. I think you see what is going on. I'll enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Kate Brown, and I'm with Brian United Methodist Church in Graysonville on the Eastern Shore. Elinor has been helping me. I'm a rookie in all of this, and I am working toward getting the recognitions of the USCT soldiers that we have found buried at church.
Hi, I'm a volunteer here at the museum, and I'm working with Elinor and as a member of the board of the Ocean Farm Preservation Society, trying to research the history and the descendants of the enslaved population at Ocean Farm.
Senator. That was part of this work
Hess Benson, Historic St. Mary City Commission, Chesapeake Crossroads Heritage Area, and founder of Chesapeake Conscious Society, which is a hybrid collective ancestrally guided Afro-Chesapeake experience to preserve our history here in the state of Maryland and beyond the Chesapeake area.
I'm Melinda Avery, community historian from Eastern Shore and curator of the Kennedi Shankston Project in Greene County.
Hi everyone, I'm Lakia Pierce. I represent Manny Scott Post of the American Legion 193 in Caroline County. We sit right on the Underground Railroad. Wow. Commissioner is the kind of person that I'm in contact with. We are desperately need to preserve our veteran community. As many of you know, the Maryland Legions are still segregated. So right now our building is condemned, and right now a lot of BIPOC veterans in our community does not have anywhere to go or get assistance with their benefits. So this project is very important to me. So hopefully when you get approved to get it up and running, you guys will come out and check out the veteran community out there as well.
My name is Nancy Easterling. I'm the Executive Director of Historic Solid down in St. Mary's County. We are a Middleport marker site. We are a UNESCO site of memory for the rooted enslaved. And I just have to give a shout out to 3 of our descendants here in the room tonight. 2 of them are up on the podium. It's Janice Greene and Elinor Thompson, and sitting next to me, Kelsey Bush.
Hi, Kelsey Bush. Day job, St. Mary's College Maryland Community Affairs Liaison, but I'm Commissioner on Maryland. Commissioner for African American History and Culture. I'm so glad that there's more than $1 million to fight over. Because I remember the day that we had to fight to get $1 million. I was part of the commission to get the $1 million. So I was there for that fight. to see $5 million brings a tear to the eye. I'm also a former commissioner for historic St. Mary's City. I currently serve on the board for historic Sauterley. I'm a former member of the United Coalition for African American History and Culture, and just a history nut all around. I'm also a descendant of historic Sauterley, also GU 272. I'm part of the families that were left behind. So, yes, my Southern American voter fighties run the deep.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renee McKinney, and this is Janice. I'm the president of the Harrisville Malone Cemetery Maintenance Fund, where we're working to preserve Malone, the church down in Madison, Dorchester County, and we have applied for the African American Preservation Grant as well, and we have been nominated for the Network to Freedom. It has already been announced. Kate Larson has been working with us. We're on the Harriet Tubman Byway, and we do not have an active congregation. We are the descendants. Not only that we're going to tell a story about Harriet meeting John Tubman on the property, but about all the other people who lived there that helped her to navigate, like Jacob Jackson, and our freedom seeker, which is Vincent Greene, how they navigate and helped her along the way. So we have a very important project, and commissioners. We have a new website, and let me tell you, we're excited. We're excited. So it's so nice to
Cynthia Dodd, as we're going at United Methodist Church, Annapolis, Maryland. Good afternoon.
My name is Nelson Brown. I am the grant chair and historian for the Ralph Bunch Community Center, a former elementary school that's over 100 years old. And we are presently trying to secure funds. We filled out the application for the grant. We're trying to renovate our center, and we're also planning for a museum/legacy center. We'd like to thank Ms. Elinor Thompson for being our advocate, and Director Chanel Compton Johnson for always giving us advice. I'm also a member of Adams United Methodist Church. I'm saying that because we just celebrated our 169th anniversary.
I'm Chiquita Sorrells. I'm the church historian for Rockwood. Yeah, right. Jerusalem Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church in Rockville. I'm also the president of the Montgomery County chapter of the African American Historical and Genealogical Society. And we also have responsibility for a historic cemetery, Mount Pleasant, which is in North Maryland.
Hi, my name is Wanda Jackson. I'm the Herbert. Yes, we're from Rockville, Maryland, and Jerusalem Mount Pleasant United Methodist Church is our church, and we are one of the oldest churches in Montgomery County.
And we also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that Elinor Thompson is also one of our applicants. Explain that, so please stop by and see us.
Good afternoon, my name is Sheila Carver. I'm from Franklin United Methodist Church, and we'd like to thank Elinor for supporting us. And numbers there and here.
Hello, Franklin Cemetery. Hello, my name is Thompson. I'm a member of Franklin United Methodist Church, working with Tanyard Cemetery. My maiden name is Annals, and we are part of the historic families who were taken by Harriet Tubman to New York. And my husband's name, his family's name is in the museum.
Good afternoon, my name is Curtis Jones, and I'm the commander of the American Museum on Forest Drive. I'm also a member of the Illinois County Official Veterans Affairs, and I'm also a member of the NAACP for Illinois County. This is the co-chair of the Veterans Affairs part of that commission. And I'm here because I was invited by Elinor Thompson. But I'm actually passionate about Veterans Affairs, and one of the things I wanted to do was adopt the veterans that are not been claimed in the cemeteries off of West Street, because the VA will put headstones up if they know who they are, and we could adopt those veterans. And I'm passionate about veterans benefits and helping veterans in their families. So that's why.
Good afternoon, Ron Waters, representing Gettysburg United Methodist Church in Annapolis, also invited by Commissioner.
I forgot to say that Elinor Thompson, Commissioner Elinor Thompson, and we thank you for the guidance.
Good afternoon, Rhonda Thomas and Barbara Smith from Carl West United Methodist Church in Calvert County, and we are grant applicants to Carl West United Methodist Church Cemetery. It dates back to 1895, and we are convinced that there are hundreds of unmarked graves there, and we want to honor those who speak from the grave.
Hi, this is Cheryl McLeod. I'm wearing this special hat today because this was a gift that was from the commission. I'm a commission emeritus, as I say. I'm here for two reasons. Number one, on behalf of the other commission emeritus who helped with the March on Washington, Maryland style, Chair Wilson, Tony Spencer. There was another commissioner who was also helping, and myself. We want to thank the commission for their support. Last meeting, I'm also here on behalf of the HBCU advocates, and we presented some information to you about our struggles in making sure that the state remains constitutionally correct as we are going forward with saving our HBCUs and duplicating the issue of duplicated programs. Great news, if you go to SAVEMDHBCUs.org, and you go to the top and look at latest news, we have been victorious thus far on 3 attempts to try to duplicate programs of our historically black colleges, and we have won those battles thus far, so we're going to thank the commission for giving us the opportunity to share that information with you next week.
Hi, I'm Sharon Martin, and I'm here from the Leo Area Historic Society, which houses an actual black mutual aid society with dates from 1905. It has the actual furnishings in the building. I'm also here from the Kennedi Foundation. We just published a book on over 50 African American women pioneers in Anne Arundel County. Hi, I'm Carolyn Wilson from the United Methodist Church in Winchester, and Ellen Thompson from
Hi, I'm Robert Maloney from Maryland Kennedi. I'm the program officer for partnerships, where I oversee our regional events networks providing technical assistance to capacity building for organizations across the state. I have the great pleasure of working with Commissioner Thompson over many years and a number of you, and I look forward to doing so in this new capacity.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Reverend Ruby Thomas. I'm located in Charles County, Maryland. I am a Charles County Historic Preservation Commissioner, but I also have a love for history, African American history, and I have 2 projects that I'm working on. One of the projects, thank you, Commission, for awarding the Carroll Farmhouse Preservation and Historic project. This project will end up being the first farmhouse in Charles County to be preserved as an historic site for cultural and historic tourism. The first. The farmhouse is over 200 and some years old, and on the farmhouse there is a slave cemetery. The slave cemetery dates back to the early 1700s. We're in the process of identifying Those graves, they're all unmarked. We thought there were only about 15 graves, and we found over 200 graves in that location. It's fantastic. If you want to know more about this project, please go to the Charles County government website. This project has been covered by the local news. We've been on Channel 4, Channel 7, also in the Charles County government news as well. You'll find a story about the farmhouse and the cemetery. Thank you.
Thank you.
In closing, thank you, Commissioner Thompson, for all of your support, all of your advice, all of your assistance to make what I'm doing a reality. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kennedi, and I'm the author of the story called Arundel, an American Hero, about Harriet Tubman's life when she was born until she ran away. And if you need any more information about it, it's Arundel, the Plague Back.
My name is Brett Murray. I'm with Friends of Fairview, an amazing property that's located in Prince George's County. Formed in 1790, it was owned by Governor Ogden and Bowie and their family for years. We are under the gun trying to save it. We probably got 60 days. We have contract on the property trying to save it. I need everybody's advice on how to do this. We had over 130 slaves, of which most of them are still on the buried on the property. So any help that you guys give. There is a brochure probably in front of everybody telling some of the story. Thank you.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Brian, I'm good friends with Elinor, Commissioner Elinor. Glad to be here, represent their protection, security 101. We provide security systems such as access control, intrusion, security cameras. Most importantly, lockdown, because of shooting things like that. There's a potential, probably like a mass shooting on last Tuesday, but luckily someone saw the knucklehead and they arrested. So we're about saving lives. One of our customers right here just blew these off, so we wanted to grant coverage. But one thing we do specialize in grant business. My team and myself were successful in helping more than $6 million for churches in the area. And we work very, very hard with that. United Methodist out of Fulton, but that's all of Prince George's County, Baltimore County, Howard County, one of our clients, and we support over 600 churches as part of the grant. It is a lot of work to do. I've lost hours of my life doing it, but most importantly, it's about protecting the church, the pastor, and the members. So I'm very passionate about it. Anyone who wants to learn how to get these grants, reach out to me and my team. We'd love to help out. We work 24/7. We really don't sleep. But the most important thing is about protecting you guys. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Louis Platt. I'm here representing John Wesley United Methodist Church in Greenbury, Maryland. John Wesley in Greenbury, Maryland is the oldest African-American church in Arundel County. And like the majority of you, my advocate is Commissioner Thompson. I appreciate you being with me today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jeannie Henson. I'm with the Charles W. Hakeem Foundation. We are the advocate. Our advocate is Thompson. We are trying to preserve the home of Hoppy Adams, who was a famous legendary DJ for the Cars Beach, bringing entertainment and personalities here to Annapolis. And his house is very important because it served as a safe haven and a welcoming space for the likes of James Brown, Otis Redding, Aretha Franklin, all the black entertainers that came here during the Jim Crow era that were not allowed to stay in hotels here in the city of Annapolis. And so we are just
Didn't we give you something last year? Didn't you get a grant last year?
Yes, we got a grant. I was about to say we got a grant last year.
They got $100,000.
Legislative grant of $145,000, and it's going to take a couple $2 million to preserve this home, but he died in 2005. I saved all of his furniture, his clothes, some of the things I was able to save. And everybody in Annapolis that knew Hoppy Adams and knew him, he had polio as a child. So one of his legs was shorter than the other. I had his shoes.
And we've been reserving this stuff to open this house because we think it's a very important piece here in the city of Annapolis and in the world, because he was working on. And I also want to say I'm a member of Mount Zion Baptist Church as an Eastport, and I'm a descendant of Elinor Butler and Negro Charles on my mother's side.
What's up, Carlos?
And on my father's side, I'm a descendant of Josiah Henson, who Uncle Thomas Herbert was written about, and Matthew Henson, who was the first man to receive souls.
My name is Reggie. I'm president of Full House Cemetery Association here in Annapolis, Maryland. With the assistance of several Thompson, we have located and identified several people who were victims of lynchings. We have also identified some African Americans who were in the Spanish American War. And we are now the recipient of a grant. And while the commission is here, you can go past the cemetery and see why we need your assistance.
Good afternoon, my name is Helen Turner. I'm a member of Franklin United Methodist Church, and I'm here with appreciation of the work that has been granted to Franklin by Thompson and learning a lot of what they can come in the future. My name is Cheryl Mount. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also a member of Franklin, and we'd like to not only thank Elinor, but we give her all honor and praise for what not only she done with Franklin, but listening here today, she's been working hard, and I think she is. Observing another round of applause. Franklin will be celebrating on October the 18th, our 158th anniversary. Thank you.
Good afternoon, my name is Dr. Sherry Hudson. I am the representative of the Pembroke Project in Baltimore, Maryland, not associated with any other project that has a similar name. We are located at what is considered ground zero in Baltimore, Maryland, where the marchings for Frederick and his murder, the marchings of Dr. Kennedy and some others. There is also in that area, there are unmarked slave graves that are located next to their owners or their employers that we would like to uncover. In addition to that, our intentions are also to preserve an historical museum, to build a historical museum in that area, because we know that area it is very poverty-stricken. And a lot of the folks, the only thing they know about the area is the street corner that they stand on, that they receive drugs from, or that they've been shot on. And we want them to know that there are historical African Americans that we have a culture that we can be proud of, and that we will offer them any assistance needed in order for them to be able to understand their culture. Thank you. I'm sorry, and Dr. Elinor, and if I was thinking back on the lady who just left, in reference to Hoppy Adams, as a young girl, I remember listening at the station, and the one thing he said at the end of every program was, be kind to the ones that you meet on the way up, because they're the same ones you're going to meet on the way down.
Good afternoon, my name is Tijani. I am the acting executive director of the Banneker-Douglass-Tubman Historical Society.
Good afternoon, my name is James Hines, representing the cemetery.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Before I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting, can we just have one final round of applause for our host? I'll take a motion for adjournment. It's been properly moved and seconded. This public meeting of the Maryland Commission on African American History and Culture for the month of October 2023 has been adjourned. Lunch is outside.
Yeah.